Hey BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do a library loop for you guys. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and you guys know I love showing you what I bring home from the library. So yet again, we're going to split this video into two. Today I'm going to tell you about the young adult books and the graphic novels that I've recently acquired, and then Friday I will be back to tell you guys about the adult books and the nonfiction that I've picked up recently. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, there is Heap House by Edward Carey. This is the first book in the Falsham series, and basically this is a book about young Claude, and young Claude Ironmonger lives in a trash heap. The book is illustrated, but basically every part of his life is lived around this trash heap that you can see on the front, and he lives in Heap House, obviously, because it's on a heap of trash. And basically, a cousin shows up, and the cousin kind of starts to unearth some weird things happening in the house, some kind of scary things happening in the house, and Claude has to work to figure out like what exactly is going on there. So it's supposed to be very, very cute, very stylized, very Victorian, kind of that mode of book that is like intentionally pseudo depressing, like think like series of unfortunate events, or there's a picture book out called The Dullards. It's kind of like that. But I recently heard Liberty Hardy from Franzen Comes Alive talk about the second one, which made me look into the first one. And there you go. I'm really, really excited because the illustrations look really cute. And I don't know, just something about this boy in this, I don't know. It just looks really good. So I'm really, really excited to get into it. The next one coming up is of a similar vein, but is for a younger audience. It's called Imaginary. It's a middle grade book. Or excuse me, The Imaginary. And this is another one that's illustrated. And this is about Amanda's imaginary friend, Rudger, sorry. And Rudger is an imaginary, and one day a scary man shows up at Amanda's door and says that he is a hunter of imaginaries. So he is going to have to basically kill her imaginary friend. So then her imaginary friend takes out on the run, and she's doing her best to help him. And so we get this, sorry, the cover is like obscenely shiny, so I'm trying to hold it so it's not doing that. But basically, we get this exploration of this world of the imaginary as well as our world. You can kind of see that portrayed on the cover. There's this black and white part, but then down below in the imaginary, everything's a little bit more colorful. So yeah, I'm just really excited. I just think it sounds really, really cute, and the illustrations look really good, and it's really short. And I just really think it sounds like an interesting concept for a book. So I usually drive pretty well with middle grade. Hopefully that one ends up working out. Next up, we have Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older. Daniel Jose Older is a an urban fantasy writer who, I believe it's Reservation Homes. No, that's something else I'm thinking of. I'll post a Goodreads link to the first book in his adult trilogy down below. But this is a new young adult book, and let's see. Okay, it's basically magic. They discover shadow shaping, a thrilling magic that infuses ancestral spirits into paintings, music, and stories. That sounds pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. Basically, this girl is involved in a murder. A friend of hers is murdered, and that murder leads her both to discovering this magic as well as to using this magic to find out who killed her best friend. And so I have heard really, really good things both about this book as well as about the author from the Book Riot channels, as well as some of the other young adult resources that I check out for work. So I haven't read it yet. Obviously, I don't know much about it. I don't really know much about most of the books I bring home, but I'm really in love with this color. I love her like rainbow afro thing she's got going on. So I've heard really, really good things about the magical system in this book, so we will see how that holds up. We also have Emmy and Oliver, a novel of love, lost and found. So basically, Emmy disappears one summer, and let's see. Oh no, that's a different book I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's a different book I'm thinking about. Oliver disappears in this one. Oliver disappears and he's gone for like 10 years, but then he comes back and he disappeared when they were really little. And Emmy kind of had some feelings that she was developing for Oliver and didn't get quite the chance to work through. And now he's back and he won't really talk about where he went. And she doesn't know really where he went, but things are different. And so they have to figure out both how to interact with each other as well as how to deal with like what's been going on while he was gone. It's supposed to be really sweet, but also kind of dark. It's got blurbs on the back by both Stephanie Perkins from Anna and the French Kiss and Morgan Matson from Since You've Been Gone. Those are two pretty big endorsements in the young adult world. So I'm really excited to see like where this is actually going and how dark this gets because personally I think it sounds like kind of a dark story. So I don't see how it couldn't be, but you know, there you go. And last but not least, All Our Pretty Songs by Sarah McCary. This is about Aurora and our narrator. So essentially, it's about deciding between lady friendship and dude love. It's a guy comes into town and he can play magic, or not. He can't play magic. He's a musician, and the music that he plays kind of unleashes some softly rooted magic. Kind of starts to lure one of the girls away. And the narrator, our kind of nameless narrator, has to decide to fight for her and whether or not the friend is going to fight for herself. And it kind of wraps up all these themes of music and love and romance and all of these things into what I am hoping is a pretty creepy thing going on here because Sarah McCary usually writes some fairly some dark stuff. So fingers crossed on this one. Again, it's blurbed on the front by Neil Gaiman and on the back by Tahir Mahaffey and Alexander Chee. All of whom are fairly good big names in the like darker fantasy, weirder fantasy genre, so I'm really excited. And to get to the graphic novels, yay! I love graphic novels, you guys. Okay, the first one up specifically from recommendation for me by Amanda Eagle is The Pride of Baghdad by Brian K. Vaughan. Brian K. Vaughan, as you guys know, is a pretty huge comic book name. He does a lot of series. He did Y the Last Man, Ex Machina, The Runaways, Saga. He's working with Fiona Staples to do Saga. So he's a really big name. But this is a one-off. This is kind of a one-off, like standalone that he did that is basically about the streets of Baghdad after we started the like war in Iraq. It takes place in 2003, and it's just about a group of both Taliban Islamic soldiers, lions, and like the interaction basically between a country at war, nature, and then the echoes in between the two. You know, obviously the pride of Baghdad is referring to a lion pride, but also the pride that these soldiers hold. So there's a lot of like things drawn from each one. Excuse me. So yeah, there's a lot of like animal humanity crossovers, and the art I think is just stunning. I love the brown, golds, earth toned, like desert color palette. So I'm just really excited. The next ones are just volumes in the series that I am reading. So there's nothing like too crazy I can say about them, but they are Morning Glories Volume 4, right here. Morning Glories Volume 5, right here. And Morning Glories Volume 6. Morning Glories is a story that takes place at a prep school where things are crazy. People get murdered. There are like underground resistance groups. There are like not cults, but like they're like military trained. And there's double crossings and triple crossings and backstabs and maybe some like dark sorcery, but mainly just people being super like fucked up to each other. And we don't really know why yet. I just finished the third one the other day. So I just don't have any idea like why, but these comic books are so addicting to me. They are so gorgeously drawn and colored, in my opinion. Like, look at that. Not to mention they are like hefty. Like these two, not so much, but like let me tell you guys, that is look at that. That's a hefty graphic novel. And I love that. I love it when they have a little bit more bulk to them. I feel like I'm getting through them, but not literally just like tearing through the pages. Next up, I have the first volume of The Woods. I was recommended this by somebody on Goodreads when they saw that I was reading Morning Glories. So I figured, you know what? Hey, can't go wrong. It's blurred by Jeff Lemire, who wrote Sweet Tooth, that I never actually read but brought home. So at least that's a name that I'm familiar with. This is basically just about a group of teens who go into the woods and creepy, dark things happen to them. And I don't know how I feel about the writing style. I go back and forth because I flip through it and I see that. And to me, that color palette is just absolutely gorgeous. But then, I don't know, I look at some of the other actual, the way he draws his people, and I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the first volume in the woods. If it pans out, I have the second one on hold already. And lastly, because this video is already a ton longer than I thought it would be, we have Revival Volume 1. Does it have a subtitle? Yes. You're Among Friends. And Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It. And these are essentially about when the dead start to come back to life. It takes place or starts taking place in northern Wisconsin. And as you would imagine with kind of a zombie novel, it's about a bunch of things. What happened, what do religious people do? What does the government do? What does science do when this starts to happen? But a local cop decides that she's going to, amongst all of this chaos, find a way to keep the peace and keep her town safe as the zombies basically rise around her. It's got a very kind of, I don't know how I feel. I like the art style. I like the art style a lot, but I don't know quite how I feel about the color palette yet. The covers lead me to believe that it's going to be a lot darker in terms of its literal tone and color palette, but we'll have to see. So yeah, that wraps up the first half of my library loot, the young adult books and the graphic novels that I brought home recently. Tune in Friday to see the rest. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below which of these you've read and which of which I should start first. All right, guys, have a good day around the internet. Bye.